Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about pulmonary embolism. Okay, so let's start with what is a pulmonary embolus. It's usually a thrombus in one of the deep veins of the leg that travels up and goes to the right heart, and then gets lodged in one of the branches of the pulmonary artery, either proximally or distally, right? So one of the things that you're going to be tested on, especially in step 1, is what kind of a defect is the pulmonary embolus. So here is your alveolus. Here are the vessels that feed the alveolus. Now let's say that there's a thrombus over here. This is going to be, you know that there's air entry over here, but there's no perfusion, right? So this is going to be what we call dead space ventilation. Okay. So what would pulmonary embolus present as, right? So there's going to be dyspnea, breathlessness, hemoptysis, chest pain. There's going to be tachypnea, tachycardia, orthopnea, decreased air entry on auscultation. There's going to be rales. There may be hypotension, wheezing, there can be syncope and hemodynamic instability, right? So one thing you want to remember about your pulmonary embolism is that it's going to be what we call obstructive shock, right? Because you're preventing the right heart from pumping, right, into the lungs. So a massive PE, right, presents as obstructive shock, and that's actually when you'd see things like hemodynamic instability and hypotension. You can also have sudden cardiac death, and prior to these developments you can have what is called cor pulmonale, which is right heart failure due to a pulmonary pathology, right? Now, so I'm going to quickly touch upon how you manage a pulmonary embolism. Now, there are some specific things that you have to remember from the board's perspective, but let's first talk about how you manage a patient really quickly when they come to the emergency with suspected pulmonary embolism, right? Because first you want to save the patient, and then let's look at some of the board relevant questions that the USMLE likes to test you guys on. But let's first address how to manage this really quickly. So there's something called the modified Wells score, right? Oh, really? I'm really sorry about the interruption. I got a call from somebody and I was not expecting it. I'm so sorry. Yeah. So this modified well score, you can read it up. Basically, it gives you a number of parameters to look for when deciding whether or not it's PE. So if the score is more than 4, and if the score is more than 4, it means that pulmonary embolism is likely, and if it's less than 4, it means it's not, right? So if PE is likely, you want to quickly get a CT pulmonary angiogram, okay? And now when on CTPA, if you see a clot in the pulmonary vasculature, you immediately want to treat them with low molecular weight heparins like enoxaparin. Now, if it's less than 4, you want to get what we call a D-dimer test. Now, if your D-dimer is elevated, you still want to then go get a CTPA and see if you want to treat them with low molecular weight heparins. But if your D-dimer score is low, then you can rule out pulmonary embolism, right? And one more thing that you want to pay attention to is that let's say there is a hemodynamically unstable patient, or you have like a particularly massive pulmonary embolism. That is when you want to thrombolize the patient. And when there is a contraindication to thrombolysis, like for example, if the patient has an active peptic ulcer disease, or like a bleeding tendency or something like that, when you cannot give low molecular weight heparins and you cannot thrombolize the patient, that's when you put in something called an IVC filter. It is basically preventing the thrombus from traveling up, especially when a patient has signs of DVT, like you have like a cord-like palpable mass in the legs. There's swelling, there's warmth in the extremities, and then you want to put in an IVC filter to sort of prevent the clot from traveling up and going to the heart and then going to your lungs. Okay, now we can talk about the VQ scan. We didn't talk about the VQ scan because we talked about what to immediately do when a patient comes in with the PE, but we can talk about the VQ scan because that is something that can be tested on the boards. So the VQ scan, like basically you're inhaling and injecting a radiotracer and you're trying to see the ventilation and perfusion. And like I said before, this is what is called dead space ventilation. So what you're going to see is that ventilation is fine, perfusion is bad in case of a pulmonary embolus. And when you get a chest X-ray, right, you want to be you can be tested about 3 signs. The first one is called a Hampton's hump, right? And the second one is a Westermarck sign, and the third one is Fleischner sign. So the Hampton hump is basically a pleural-based opacification, wedge-shaped opacification that you can see on the chest X-ray, and there might be ipsilateral pleural effusion. The Westermarck and the Fleischner sign is basically like, let's say you have your the pulmonary arterial branch of it that has gotten affected by an embolus. So what's going to happen is that proximal to the embolus, there's going to be a dilatation of the vessel, and distal to the embolus, you don't see a lot of vascular markings. So the absence of vascular markings is called the Westermarck sign, and the bulge is called the Fleischner sign. So this is pretty much everything you need to know from a board's perspective, and loosely how to manage a patient. I would encourage you to go through the modified well score so that it'll allow you to sort of know when to be suspicious of a pulmonary embolus. You definitely want to pay attention to all your signs and symptoms and what can sort of predisposed to a pulmonary embolism. And I hope you guys have gotten a good overall idea about PE. Thank you so much for listening. Let me know in the comment section below if you need me to target any specific topics, any specific videos that you'd like me to make. I will see you next time. Good night.